Now, one thing that really kick-started modern chemistry and a wealth of new discoveries was Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev's work in trying to understand the elements and how they were related to each other. In 1869, he, after years of trying, was still trying to find an order to the elements. And you know, he was doing this with a big handicap because only about half the elements we know now were known to him. That made his task so much more difficult. Anyway, what he did, he wrote the known element on the back of a deck of cards sort of thing, and then tried to lay the cards out in random order to see if he could find some common thread. Scientists had been trying to arrange elements in their atomic number order, but that didn't really work. You did get patterns, like every eighth element sort of was like an inert gas and that sort of thing, but just trying to organise elements into their atomic weights into some sort of pattern just didn't work. Anyway, one night he had this dream, and it came to him in inspiration, where he was able to group the elements due to their physical properties and atomic number and so on. Now, all of these gases are largely unreactive. They won't react with anything, although there are some exceptions. Any chemists watching, there are some exceptions, I know. And then you've got the halogens, fluorine, chlorine, bromine. Now, these elements need to be treated with great respect. As you know, we mentioned chlorine is very poisonous. Fluorine as well, it's so poisonous, very, very corrosive, and very, very, very acidic. You know, you mustn't go near any of these elements unless you're under the direct supervision of a responsible adult. You know that, yeah? It's funny because if you let go of a balloon of helium, it's going to go right up to the ceiling. And if it was outside, it would go even further. And then, if you let go of a balloon of krypton, it would just sink rapidly to the floor. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that as we come down a group, all the elements in that group have got the same characteristics, but they seem to decrease or increase. You know, Mendeleev was so clever that when he talked and discovered the periodic table, even though he was playing with half a deck of cards, if you like, he was still able to pinpoint spots in the periodic table where he thought that elements should exist. For example, he deduced that there must be an element between calcium and titanium. And he was right, because later, after his work, you know, scandium was discovered. And also francium was discovered as well, because he assumed there was another element in the same group that cesium was in. Now at number 9, I've chosen the introduction of harmony to music. We should be very grateful for that. You know, many people just take it for granted that you hear a pleasing song which sounds great, but you know, it will normally be one melody played with an accompaniment of chords to give it a much richer listening experience. Just to illustrate to you how harmony works, I have written the music and harmonised the piece for a poem called Many Mansions, which my late father wrote not so long ago. Firstly, I will play the melody and sing without any harmony. That sounds okay, but listen to the difference when I play chords with my left hand. In other words, when I have harmonised the piece of music. There are many mansions in God's house, our Lord Jesus told us. There are many mansions in God's house, our Lord Jesus told us. Notice the difference. No discussion about harmony could be complete without reference to the structure of major scales. The structure of a major scale is full note, half note, full note, full note, full note, half note. In music theory, the step between each note is a semitone. Therefore, the interval going from C to D is 2 semitones because of the black note. Similarly, going from G to A is also 2 semitones, i.e. 1 whole note. But the interval in going from E to F is only 1 semitone because there's no black note separating them. Now this can be really very confusing when you first learn this, but it is worth studying as intervals are such an integral part of music. Now 4 semitones is called a major third, and an interval of 3 semitones is called a minor third. Yes, if you delve more into music theory, you'll find it very interesting. One thing that amazes me is that major chords sound happy and minor chords sound sad. Let me just illustrate that. This is the chord of C major, C minor, it works, I think, with all the chords. So F major, F minor, isn't that amazing? Now you might be a bit surprised at my choice of number 8, but nevertheless here we go. Punk rock and the Sex Pistols, their music was big, brash and loud, but it was not so much that I want to concentrate on, but rather the punk fashion. I don't really like the sight of a punk with a thin streak of coloured punky hair, but I do like 2 things. Firstly, this short era, if you like, made people realise you don't have to be born with a silver spoon in their mouth to be famous, to earn lots of money. Anybody can have a go. Anybody can be in the public spotlight. You know, politicians make us think that we should know our place, but, you know, that's not right. So, lots of bands just learned a few chords and started singing. There were plenty of bad things to be frustrated about in the late 70s. The winter of our discontent, strikes and rising unemployment. One outlet was to write an angry song. You don't need to know much about a guitar necessarily, but just play brash, loud, angry and get a little bit of rhythm in there and you might earn lots of money. Now I feel as though the legacy of punk rock is that it injected a lot of influences into modern art, and that's what I like particularly. You know, yeah, why should all the big guys have the fun getting media attention? You know, you don't need an honours degree to be a celebrity. Well, that's how I see it anyway. My main point is that punk rock never really died. Its legacy lives on in art and fashion. Being a spy trap. And a general feeling in people that, hey, this is my life, not some wound up politician telling me what to do with my life. Yeah, I like the 60s a lot more than the punk era, but I feel as though a lot of the good things about the 60s were talked about and merely discussed and not realised. If you like, few rules rule did not become mainstream until years later. Why be conventional? I pride myself on not being conventional. As I said, this is the top 14 things to be grateful for, not the top 10. You know, I try to be unconventional. If you're doing a drawing, for example, why draw it on a oblong-shaped piece of paper? A painting or a drawing can be drawn on a triangular piece of paper, a torn piece of paper. People have just got it stuck in their minds, this mindset that they must do it this way, that way. Now, when I'm making films, I like to be totally different. I really do believe in that. I'm always trying to reinvent myself, trying to think of other ways I can reach people. Give a little bit here, give a little bit there. People get to know me and I change direction. That's what I try to do. Within reason, I can be who I want to be on YouTube. And doesn't that sound like the punk creed?